in learning more about dun, 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 dun. Hello and welcome back to my channel, Mental Health with Melissa. I'm Melissa. I'm a licensed clinical therapist with a private practice based in California. Before we get started, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button for more content like this. I post videos every single Sunday and Wednesday, and subscribing to my channel really helps me put information out there to our mental health community, our communities of color, and to those that are interested in the mental health professions. So today, if you clicked on this video, you're interested in learning more about dun, 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 dun. So feel free to stay tuned. So what we're going to talk about today is the DSM. More specifically, the DSM, the acronym, stands for Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. And this is the 5th edition. There have been a few editions before, and the new DSM has changed up a couple of the diagnoses, has taken some out, and today I want to talk about how to look diagnoses up, how to use this, and basically talk just a little bit more about it. This is the DSM, as you see here. You may have one, you may not. Really, if you're using this, you should be a licensed clinical therapist or a licensed clinical provider. You are not able to diagnose or suggest that somebody meets the criteria for a diagnosis if you're not a licensed clinical provider. So that's first and foremost. Secondly, if you wanted to learn more about the DSM prior to really going full throttle in it, then I would suggest actually buying it, because you're going to actually need a physical copy to really look in it and digest some of the information. I went a long time without the DSM. I did some of my research on diagnoses online, but this is going to give you a very in-depth analysis of every single diagnosis that you can think of that's out there, and something that the Google world just cannot provide to you, which is very rare, but it's true. So we're going to take a little bit of a look inside. So when you open it up here, that's what it looks like, and it takes you to the contents, and section 1 is really going to tell you a brief introduction of the DSM, and section 2 is going to start off with diagnostic criteria and codes. So it's going to break it up based on the type of diagnostic criteria and the type of mental health disorder that it is. So for example, the first diagnostic criteria in section 2 that comes up is neurodevelopmental disorders. So when you go to that page, it's going to tell you all of the criteria to meet that specific diagnosis. And then the same thing goes with the other criteria for the other diagnoses. So we're going to look at anxiety disorders because there's more anxiety disorders out there, and it'll be interesting to kind of see how that's broken down. So if you look on section 2, anxiety disorders, it tells you the page number, and the page number right there is 189. So we're just going to flip over to page 189, and when we get there, you'll see it, anxiety disorders. And under anxiety disorder, it's going to give you a very thorough description of what constitutes as a anxiety disorder. And when you turn the page after that, it starts to break down all the different types of anxiety disorders. And the first one listed there is separation anxiety disorder. So if we're looking at that, it tells you all the diagnostic criteria to meet separation anxiety disorder. So it has all of them listed in a numeric order, and then it has the diagnostic features. Then it has associate features supporting diagnosis, prevalence, development and course, risk and prognostic factors, culture-related diagnostic issues, gender-related, suicide risk, functional consequences, and differential diagnosis, and then comorbidity. And then it goes on to list other anxiety disorders after that. So that's the general form or format of the DSM and how it lists out diagnoses. So that's what I mean when I say you're going to want to actually have one to be able to go through and really see what criteria your clients may have, and you're going to really want to go from there. The DSM is available online really to anybody. You can buy it on Amazon or on the internet, and the times that you're going to need a DSM are if you are an actual diagnosing clinical therapist. So say you work in private practice or you work for an organization and you have to bill insurance, and insurance requires that you actually have a diagnostic coding for purposes of billing. So that's why you would really need to know these things. But other than that, sometimes an individual may not meet the full criteria for one diagnosis, or may have maybe one diagnostic characteristic from one diagnosis and then another from another. And so all of these diagnoses may not particularly apply to a given individual. So that was my explanation and a little bit of direction on how to use the DSM in a nutshell. So I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments section below. Until next time, managing mental health matters.